Hello everyone, Bill Molyneux here for Bill's History World with Goober, the Traveling Bear. And we're at the Mathews Museum in Mathews, Virginia, and we have the honor to be talking to Mr. Don. Mr. Don, take it away. What are you going to talk to us about?
Well, we're going to discuss the Battle of Cricket Hill or Gwen's Island. Both those names work. Cricket Hill is this area over here that the Lord Dunmore here in his vessel calls these folks crickets. He's not worried about them. Dunmore's an arrogant man. But the battle takes place. It starts off with the gunpowder incident in Williamsburg over a year ago from the date of the battle here. All right. Lord Dunmore goes to Newport News. They sack Newport News. The Patriot Militia makes life very uncomfortable for him, and they finally get the upper hand and drive the royal governor out of Newport News to Gwen's Island. He chooses Gwen's Island because it's separate. He doesn't worry about a land attack. However, the Narrows here, he's only got about a 200-yard separation from these troops and guns. So they patrol the Narrows, the haven here, with small vessels. They want to make sure that the militia doesn't try anything. On May 27th, the British invade the island. By noon that day, they start out at 4 a.m. By noon that day, they've got over 700 troops ashore. The island inhabitants are told to pack their stuff up and leave. The British come here and they have a windfall of things. There are over 500 animals on the island: hogs, sheep, and cattle. That's food. They have fresh water here. However, the springs and the wells quickly run dry because they're using more water than what the local inhabitants have ever used. Dunmore's floating town is over 120 plus ships. All those ships have people that need food, and they need naval stores to repair these ships, because some of these ships have been sitting in his floating town for well over a year or more. The assault starts. They come into Hills Bay here. It's protected out of the bay. They assault the west side of the island and push to the east. Now the Virginia militia sees them coming. They leave the island and come over here to Cricket Hill, if you will. This is the Virginia militia sees the fleet coming, and they evacuate the island. They move across to the mainland here to part of Kingston's parish. At that time, they send riders everywhere to try to let the main body of militia know where Lord Dunmore and his fleet have landed. Once the British have invaded the island, they start to make improvements. They build Fort Hammond here, and they're setting up for artillery positions to make sure the colonial militia, the rebels, don't try to dislodge them from the island. They set up a quarantine camp because there are lots of people here that are sick. A lot of the Ethiopians are ridden with smallpox, riddled with smallpox, and a lot of the other folks on the ships are sick. According to local history, a lot of bodies are washing up in Middlesex and around on the islands. When people die on these ships, they're just dropping them overboard. So they've got a problem. They're trying to get these people healthier too. So again, the food and the things they have here are helping in that, but they still need constant supplies. There's ships coming in from the Chesapeake Bay out in the open ocean, bringing off supplies, but it's too little too late and just not enough, so they're struggling. Once the colonial militia knows that Lord Dunmore has occupied the island, the colonial militia starts to set up. They're sniping with small arms at the men on the island here, since the distance is not all that great. they also returned fire and kind of pushed these guys away for a while. Now the Virginia Militia starts to bring in artillery. They're building artillery positions, and the trees here are screening them along the edge of the shore. They build 2 large batteries. Batteries are groups of cannon or guns. The first one is closer. This is the Narrows battery. The second one would be the Haven battery back here, and they're bringing in large cannon. All right, they're using 9 and 18-pound guns. The 6-pound guns that are available simply don't have the power to do much damage to these ships. The 9 and 18-pound guns, when they open fire on the fleet, they can't hit everybody, but they can hit a lot of the important ships. They can fire out to a mile or so, maybe a little bit more, depending on weather, powder, all that stuff, science, okay? While the British occupy the island, they're digging wells, building fortifications, butchering animals for food. They build a small breakwater here with some of the rotten ships. They want a little artificial harbor where they can utilize that into the island. During the British occupation, the American militia units start to build up their forces all along here. General Lewis, the American commander, knows that eventually he'll need to assault the island, so he asks for small boats. He's holding small boats here, and they will use them to assault across. The day for the assault is the 21st anniversary of General Braddock's defeat by the French and Indians. George Washington and General Lewis were also with Braddock when that happens. That's during the French and Indian War, so they thought it was appropriate to use that anniversary of a British defeat. So on July 9th, they open up a cannonade. They first expose the Narrows battery and they start firing. The British try to fire back with some of their guns here. And then they open up the Haven battery. So they're taking under fire all these vessels. Some of the first shots go through Dunmore's flagship, the Dunmore, and they go through the back of the ship where Dunmore and his sailing master are. The sailing master is killed and Dunmore is wounded by the wooden splinters. Cannonballs don't explode back then, but when they hit timber, they produce a lot of splinters and stuff. So the splinters damage everybody, and it ruins the royal governor's china. I don't feel bad for him. The cannonade proceeds. They start to tow the Dunmore's flagship out of the range of the guns. They're using longboats and oars. A lot of these ships are damaged. Most of them are merchant ships, and they're not made to take on warships. They're thin-hulled, and they sustain a fair amount of damage. The anchorage is also crowded. It's hard to maneuver. Things here are shown a little bit out of scale, but it's helped to illustrate everything for everyone. So you don't really get the full effect, but it's crowded here in Hills Bay. Okay. Now, they continue to fire on the British ships. Now, the British still have vessels patrolling the Haven to keep the Patriot militia from crossing over to the island. On the 10th, one of the batteries takes these ships under fire. They damage one of them and sink one of them. The damaged ship, the Patriot crew, is sent to take over the vessel. I think the ship was actually run aground, and they scared off the British crew, and we were actually take possession of the vessel. Once that happens, is we assault this end of the island. They were concerned about the battery here at Hills Creek. However, the British had already withdrawn that battery. They were taking a pounding here. At Fort Hammond, they were throwing cannonballs into the camp. Cannonballs are bouncing along the ground, taking out the tents and structures and annoying people. One of the orders when you use a cannon is called to annoy the enemy at a distance. And I'm pretty sure they gave these guys a lot of annoyance with everything they were doing. But we assault, we come across the island. There isn't much of a fight. The British were evacuating back across the island, loading up in boats and going out to their ships. And that took a lot of time. They leave a lot of material behind. One of the things that was very unpleasant is the colonial militia finds dead bodies everywhere. These people had succumbed to disease. There were mass graves. There were bodies laid out in the open, unburied. There were several descriptions of the condition of the people, and these guys were actually shocked by what they found. Again, going back to the smallpox that's swept everything, most of those people were, again, the Ethiopian regiment that had succumbed to the smallpox. The Ethiopian regiment were enslaved people that the governor had promised their freedom to if they would join the crown, and when the war was over, they would be freed. So a lot of enslaved people here in Virginia took advantage of that. So battle proceeds. There isn't really much of a battle. Most of the battle took place during the bombardment of the fleet. On the morning of the 11th, Captain Hammond, the royal governor, and some other officers decide they can't stay here. They can't sustain this position. The cannon on the warship fire straight across, and these guys are, quite frankly, a little too high for them to get guns to bear on their positions. They leave early on the morning of the 11th and head up the bay. And that's the last time we see the royal governor here in Virginia.
Wow. Can I ask a couple questions,
Please.
Mr. Don? Someone's going to ask you, what are you wearing?
What am I wearing? I am wearing a hunting frock. Had General Washington had his way, the entire Continental Army would be dressed in this garment. It's a Virginia garment. You put it over your small clothes, and it protects you when you're out hunting. It can be a shirt. It can be a frock like this. It's very stylish in the time. General Washington forgets one thing, though. It's made out of linen, and in the winter, it's not going to keep me very warm.
All right. Well, Mr. Don, you seem to be extremely knowledgeable of military history and a Revolutionary War. How did you obtain all that wonderful knowledge?
I am a historical interpreter. I work the camps at the American Revolutionary War Museum here in Yorktown. I've been there for over 8 years. I enjoy doing it. And, we're open 7 days a week. Come on down and see us. You'll get a bang out of it. We fire the cannon and muskets. Shameless plug. But, I enjoy history, especially Virginia history and Virginia military units.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say before we close out?
We're almost finished with the diorama here. Come on in and see it. It'll be here in the museum.
All right. Well, everyone, you got to visit the Mathews Museum in Mathews, Virginia. Don's doing a great job on this diorama. And everyone out there, please stay safe, be kind, and be courteous. And thank you for watching.